we discussed the subject of Birkas HaTorah, and we gave it a very special definition. We defined Birkas HaTorah as a bracha that celebrates a lifestyle that sees the study of Torah as its centerpiece. And through that, we explained the connection between women and Birkas HaTorah, because they too have a connection to this huge, big idea that Klal Yisrael lives a lifestyle based around Torah, where the Torah institutions, the yeshivas, the chadarim, the Talmud Torahs, everything that we have that promotes genuine Torah is considered the centerpiece of the community, and we build it, and we are connected to it, and through that, Klal Yisrael has survived throughout the millennium. And we also gave a definition of a Ben Torah, because a Ben Torah is not just a person who learns, because it's easy to learn. As we know, according to Rabbi Yonah, the Beis Hamikdash, Eretz Yisrael was destroyed, despite the fact that people were learning, but they didn't say Birkas HaTorah, which means they were not B'nai Torah. A Ben Torah, as we explained, is someone who, when he studies, it is the centerpiece of his day. So you can have a person that learns 10 hours a day in Kol, and the centerpiece of his day is when he gets back home and he watches the sports. Or you can have a person that works all day, he gets back home, he studies for 2 hours, but that's the centerpiece of his day. He is the Ben Torah. That's how it works out. What I wanted to today is take this to a whole different level, and I want to ask the following question. Yisachar and Zvulun, two lifestyles, which one is for me? Which is the one that I should choose? In other words, if both Yisachar and Zvulun are defined as B'nai Torah, so how do you choose what they're all about? So what I want to do, with time willing, I want to first give over a theoretical discussion of what Yisachar and Zvulun are all about, based primarily on the writings of the Vilna Gaon. And then at the end, time permitting, I want to bring it down to the real world, because everything I'm going to be saying for the next half hour at least is going to be something that we can look at from afar. It could be the individuals here have a connection to this, but really this is the old-time classic Yisachar and Zvulun Shilpam. We're sitting comfortably, we ready? Can we do this? Okay, let us begin. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, in a faraway land where knights were bold and ogres lived in swamps, there was a joke. Okay, there was a man by the name of Yitzchak Avinu. Yitzchak and Rivka, they were trying to figure out what the world was all about. What did HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from them? And Yitzchak Avinu had a very clear definition of what should be. He knew he had two sons. He had a Yaakov and he had an Esav. He knew that Yaakov was an Ish Tam Yeshiv Ahalim, and he knew that Esav was an Ish Sadeh, was a person of the field, he was the outdoorsy, and he understood the following. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants him to have two sons, and together they're going to share the world. Son number one, Esav, is going to be involved in the physical, earthly aspects of the world, and he's going to channel it all to Kedusha. That's why, Agav Orcha, that Esav was supposed to be the recipient of the brachos. Because what were the brachos? The brachos were actually how to take physicality and raise them into spirituality. That's why the Ramban says in the parsha that we read yesterday that the main discussion between Yaakov and Esav, the main fight that they had, was who should get Eretz Yisrael. Because Eretz Yisrael is a shtik physicality, it's chaymer, and it's dripping with ruchnius, and you can take from the land, squeeze it out for ruchnius. That was the fight between them. But Yitzchak thought it should go to Esav, and then Yaakov would be totally disconnected from the land. Yaakov would be the Ishtam, Yeshiv Ahalim, totally disconnected from anything physical. He would live in a ruchnistic world. Everything would be taken care of by his brother Esav. And then Yaakov would take the goodness that Esav brings him and give it over to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if you can look at me for a moment, okay, if I could describe the two roles with my hands, Esav is like this, and Yaakov is like that. Okay, Esav brings everything in, and Yaakov takes everything up. A teeny weeny bit like Klal Yisrael and the Kohanim. One is involved with the land, one has fields and orchards, and the other has got nothing to do with physicality. Of course, as we all know, the story went wrong. as the Torah tells us, Vayivez Esav es a bechera. Esav does not agree. This whole mindset. Chazal say he was a kafir in Olam Haba. Hine anoichi hoylech lamos lamali abechera. Esav and Christianity and Western civilization after him do not take seriously anything after death. When you die, it's over. So this world is the world to party. So the whole mindset of taking the physical world and giving it over to a brother so he should raise it for some future good does not work with Esav. So Esav despises and does not want to play his role. And poor Yaakov Avinu is stuck without a partner. So what does Yaakov Avinu have to do now? He has to literally splinch himself. It's a Harry Potter term. But he has to break himself into two people. He has to be what we're going to call Yaakov Avinu 1, or the original Yaakov. And Yaakov Avinu 2, he has to find inside of himself the ability to play the role of Esav. So Yaakov now has to be inside of one person, he has to be two people. The original Yaakov and the Esav that could have been. Right, that's a Rabbi Glazer term, right? The possible you that Esav lost, that never happened. So Esav's out the picture, Yaakov is now two people. Agavorcha, I want to point out something. One of the most misunderstood stories in history is the story of Leah. Leah, in my opinion, is arguably the greatest woman of all. Because whenever I teach tefillah, you talk about the imams, how they daven for children. What do they daven for? They davened that Kosh Baruch Hu should go al pi derech hateva, a woman is supposed to have children. And they were denied that derech hateva. So you have Sarah, Rivka, Rachel, and Chana. The big four that couldn't have children. The Gemara says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu misave litfilasan shel tzidkanim, tzadikim. He wanted the closeness that comes out of the tefillah with the imams. What about Leah? Leah was the greatest of all. Because Leah asked for something keneged ateva. She asked to switch her beshert. She did not want to marry Esav. She didn't just ask, she davened and she davened and she davened and she davened and she davened to the point that the Ramban says, contrary to what the world thinks, that Leah was ugly. Leah was very beautiful. Elamai, her eyes became so blotched from tears. Literally, all her eyelashes fell out, and she looked like Darth Vader's younger sister. It was a terrifying look. And poor Leah, she's davening to change her besheret, and she won. She literally tinkered with the DNA of the universe. She came out, and she became the proper zivug for what we're now calling the second Yaakov Avinu. So Yaakov Avinu has two wives, Rachel, which is the original matriarch of the hidden Klal Yisrael. So Yosef and Binyamin and Rachel and Meim are, so to speak, the Tznuyim, Kvod Hashem, Haste Dava, the hidden ones. And Leah gives birth to the outdoor ones, meaning the ones that bring Malchus to the world. Yehuda, Shimon and Levi and Ruvain, these are primarily the big four, but especially Yehuda. Yehuda is the one that is typical, what should have been the son to Esav. Eventually it would become David HaMelech, the redhead David HaMelech. He was the perfection of what could have been. The bottom line is that's the way the world could have been. It never happened. At the end of days, Mashiach's going to bring the world to its perfection, and everyone's going to become either an original Yaakov or an original Esav. And that's how it's going to look like at the end of days. Comes along the Chasam Sofer and says something incredible. He says, guess what? Ladies and gentlemen, guess what? The vision of Yitzhak Avinu actually happened in microcosm. How did it happen? Through the personalities of two extraordinary people. Who are they? You can guess. Yisachar and Zvulun. Very good. Okay, Yisachar and Zvulun. Agav, it's not a Chumash class, so those of you that remember this from your Chumash class days, I'm just going to say very, very briefly, but it's obviously a complex maracha. And that is that Yisachar and Zvulun actually came from a mix-up between Rachel and Leah. It was really Rachel's time to be with Yaakov, and she sold the Dudaim to Leah, so it became Leah's time, and Yisachar and Zvulun came out of that. So Yisachar and Zvulun basically came out of a so to speak, a confluence between the kochos of Rachel and Leah, which is the way that the original Yaakov and Esau was supposed to be, to have those two sides inside of them. Be that as it may, it's a tease what I just said, I know, because it's much more complex. But the bottom line is, I want to talk about Yisachar and Zvulun. What I want to do is I want to explain to you what is the Yisachar, and I want to explain to you what is the Zvulun. But while I'm talking, do not think of your husbands. Please, do not think of your husbands or anyone you know, because this is all a perfected world of theory. There are definitely Yisachars in our dar. Could be, you can only count them on my fingers. And the real Zvulun, as my Rabbi always says, there's probably many Zvuluns out there. The potential Zvuluns, they have them in the dozens, maybe in their hundreds. But because there's no real Yisachars, so the Zvuluns don't step forward. It's not that they don't exist. They do exist, but they don't step forward because there's no real Yisachars. What's a Yisachar? Yisachar has 2 pluses and 1 minus. Zvulun also has 2 pluses and 1 minus. And make your choice. You want the 2 pluses and minus of Yisachar, or the 2 pluses and 1 minus of Zvulun. And I want to point out that the minus of Yisachar is only in our eyes. Yisachar does not see this as a minus, but from our viewpoint it's definitely a minus. So let's go through them one by one. What does it mean to be a Yisachar? So Yisachar has one huge plus, and that is that what he loves most, he gets to do all day long. It's very hard for us. Let me talk about myself. I don't know you, but we live in a very ADD generation. The idea of studying Talmud for 16 to 18 hours a day is like brain cannot comprehend what it means. My Rabbi in Memphis, Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt, Tzaddik Zechron Livracha, the Rivers of Ephraim, his father, Rabbi Avram Baruch, lived in Yerushalayim. He never left his house. All he did from morning to night was learn Torah. His son, Rabbi Ephraim, went to America to support his father in Kollel. Interesting concept. I wish it would catch on. But I have a lot of married kids, so yeah, it would be great. But that's what he did. He went to America, became one of the biggest Talmidim of Rav Moshe Feinstein to support his father in Kollel. So he told us that his father had a minhag that we'd have 3 starim a day, let's say from 9 to 1, from 3 to 7, and let's say from 9 to 11 in the evening. During those times, he could never be disturbed. The rest of the time, he was also learning. It's just that then you could disturb him. Then you could come in and say hello and talk to him. And so all he did is he learned, and he knew every Pnei Yeshua by heart. Whatever, he was old-fashioned, classic Yisachar, sitting in the tents of learning, disconnected from the big wide world. And he loves every moment. You can only be Yisachar if you love learning. So again, I spent 5 years in the Mir. And Baruch Hashem, I would say that the overwhelming majority of people, they love learning. But you see people there that are there because they have to be there. And it's hard to watch it. They're the ones, the 11 o'clock, they go out for the classic Mir trilogy of, I don't want to upset you about the Rogaluk coffee and cigarette, whatever. You see, 11 o'clock, that's when they take their breaks. But the point is that the real Yisachar doesn't want to leave because he's so into his learning. When I talk to high school students or in some seminaries, you probably do not relate. You're way past that. But some of you may have remembered, maybe in your youth, there was the Harry Potter craze. So every ADD kid who's into Harry Potter somehow magically, when it comes to book 7, can sit for 4 hours straight reading a book. And life comes to a halt. Suddenly, they don't have this desperate need to look at their phones every 10 minutes. Suddenly, the call of nature no longer applies to them. They're not hungry. For 4 hours straight, that's it. How long it takes to read the book. They're lying on their favorite part of the house, and they're reading until they find exactly how whatever Voldemort gets murdered and how everyone lives happily ever after, include a little section at the end that talks about Shidduchim. Everyone loves that. Okay, so this is how the book ends. So during those 4 or 5 hours, you are totally, completely in the zone. Afterwards, you don't know what to do with your life. You're depressed. It's over with. Well, guess what? When you're learning Torah, so you have those 4 or 5 hours all the time, and every time you finish, so you go another Masechta and another Masechta, and you go back to all Masechtas, and you go even deeper. It's a never-ending thing. It's infinite. It is as infinite as a Kodesh Baruch Hu's mind. So Yisachar is in a constant state of nirvana. It's excuse the expression, the constant state of joy. He loves every moment. From the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to sleep, all he does is learn. Number two, Yisachar is completely and totally mufka from what's called oil malchus derech eretz, which means he's disconnected from the physical world, because Zvulun says to him, look, I'm working, I'm killing myself so that you should learn. I do not want you involved in the physical world. You may want to do it, you may have no problem doing it. And we all know of Gedolim and Rosh Hashivas like whatever, my friend Rav Pesach Siegel always likes to tell over the story that his Rosh Hashiva, Rav Gifta Zatzal, he wanted to help out the Rebbitzin, so he would wash the dishes. And they asked him, Rebbe, how can you wash dishes? Bittul Torah. He says, you think I wash the dishes with Bittul Torah? No, I wash the dishes with the Rashba and with the Rambam. My friend imitates his voice. I wash the dishes. So my friend Rav Pesach Siegel once asked Rebbitzin Gifter, is it true? Your husband washes the dishes? He goes, yeah, don't talk to me about it. He says, why not? He says, you don't want to know. He says, what do you mean? He says, yeah, he washes the dishes. He's talking and learning the whole time. And when he finishes the dishes, I wait for him to go, and then I really clean the dishes. It's like, it doesn't work. But the point is that they may want to help, but Zvulun says, no, anything that you need physical, you call 1-800 Zvulun, and I'm there. You got a plumbing problem in the house, I'll take care of it. You're trying to find the right summer camps for your kids, just call me up. You got to fix the electrics, whatever it may be, I'll take care of anything physical. It's interesting because I'm going to develop this a little bit more. There's a lot of parallels. It's not exactly Yisachar and Zvulun and a husband and wife. A lot of parallels between the two. So the Rebbe I mentioned before, Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt, Tzaddik Zichron Livracha, his wife, Rebbitzin Miriam, was killed in the most horrible way. She was killed. She was walking in Memphis. All the ladies, they walk every morning on the sidewalks. They do their power walking. She was walking with her friend, and a car slid off and hit her. And she was in a coma, and then she died. And afterwards, Rabbi Ephraim told us, now I have to go back and go into the inside of a store. He says, what do you mean? He says, well, as long as I was learning, and Rabbi Ephraim Greenblatt used to learn, he had a full-time job in the academy, but he used to also learn 8 hours a day. And he told me he would never go to sleep without writing a chiddush or a tshuva. His wife took care of everything. I said, Rabbi, how can that be? What happens if he needed a pair of shoes? So he said, well, she would go to the shoe store and choose 3 pairs of shoes for me, come back. I used to see which one fit, and she would return the other 2. I'm not dropping any hints there. I really am not. I don't want to get into trouble with any of you. But she did not let her husband go into a store, into a bank, into anything. She took care of everything. It's not like she had no personality. She was the funnest woman. She was one of the heart and soul of Memphis. My mother-in-law adored her. Everyone adored her. But she insisted that her husband sits and learns. That's what she wanted to be most nefesh for. And Zvulun says the same thing to Yisachar. Yisachar says, okay, fine. I do what I enjoy. It's an incredible deal. I get everything I want, day and night. I'm learning Torah. I enjoy every second. And I don't have to worry about anything to do with the physical world. So what's the catch? What's the catch? What's the catch? Why don't we have Yisachars all over the place? Because the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, Perek Vav, tells us you want to be Yisachar, kachi darka shel Torah. So you got to be a real Yisachar. You got to live the life of Yisachar. Pas b'melach toichal, mayim b'mishur tishteh, v'la'aretz tishan, v'chayit tzara tachai. That's what it says. Yisachar has to live a life of chayit tzar. Let me give you the proper, healthy definition of the words chayit tzar. So you shouldn't think that Judaism is oppressive. It means you have to constantly ask yourself, what is the least I need from the physical world? That's the Yisachar. Yisachar constantly asks himself, what is the least I need from the physical world? So, our Gedolim were never into food. Rav Zatzal used to tell us, it didn't work with me. He says, pasnish for a Ben Torah to talk about food. I don't know, first of all, I love food, and I will compliment. The truth of the matter is I don't really care about how the food began. I just care about the last grand finale as it goes from the plate to my mouth. Whatever it is, but a Ben Torah is not focused on food. I had this chus once to have breakfast with Rav Shach Zatzal. just me and him. And the Rebbetzin served, I think it was 2 slices of bread, 5% cheese, and a sliced tomato, or maybe a cucumber, I don't remember exactly. He put it into his mouth with the same excitement as I put gasoline into my car. He had no shaykhs to the food. But he had a healthy breakfast. Rosh Hashanah does not have a healthy breakfast. If any of you remember, I can't remember what exactly it was, but he basically, Bli Anara, how old is he? He's over 100 yet. He's very old. And he eats, like 200 calories a day. The minimum, that's all he eats. But that's it. That's the way of Gedolim. They have no shaykhs to the physical world. It doesn't bother them. They don't need to go to the restaurants. And by the way, it's important for me to stress, all the Gedolim do this together with their wives. In other words, they don't go to restaurants and the wife says it's okay. Rabbi Kanievsky never said to Reb Chaim, why can't we just go shopping, or go to have fun, or go on a vacation? She doesn't need it. Her idea of a good time is to get up at 4 a.m. and prepare tea for her husband. It's the way she was. So again, I'm talking about unique individuals in our generation. We can look at them from afar. We can't say to these people, this is not what we look like, it's not what our spouses look like. But these people exist. These are the stories, these are Gedolim stories. The wives are totally together on the same page with a husband who lives a non-physical life. They're not disconnected from the physical world. Like Yaakov Avinu. In this week's parsha, he spends, 14 years in Shem Ve'ever, he doesn't sleep. Or if you want to say he slept on the bench, Ani Lo Yodea, in the Beis HaMedrash, however you want to learn it up. But Pashtus, he had no shaykhs to the physical world. There's a story they tell over in the Vei Yerushalayim. And if you know Rabbi Tchaikovsky, Shlita, it's a very, very holy Yid, who is also neighbors with Rav Wolbe Zatzal. So what would happen was, when the Wolbes went away for Shabbos, he would ask, do you mind if Nevei Gal stay in your house? It's kind of funny when I think about it. Imagine, you went away for Shabbos to Bnei Brak and you need a place to stay. So it was, you can use the Kanievsky apartment. There's Chaim's away. It's not happening. If Steinman's away for Shabbos, you can use his apartment. It's not happening. But it used to happen, the Volvas. So you have these girls, and they're staying in Rav Wolbe's apartment. There's one door that's closed. It's the Rav Wolbe bedroom. So what I'm about to tell you now is very wrong. It's a form of gezel, to look into something that's private. But one girl, she couldn't help herself. She wants to look into the Wolbe bedroom. Inappropriate. Okay, this is what she wanted to look. She wanted to know what it looked like. So she opens the door, she goes in, and she sees a big sign that's saying, no, I'm just kidding, okay? She goes in, and she sees 2 beds. One bed was clearly the Rebbetzin bed, I don't know how. There's knitting needles and family first, whatever was over there. And the other side was the Mashkiach's bed, except that there was no mattress. There was no mattress. So one of 2 things. It could be that the mattress is being fixed. Or the third possibility, the story is not true. But there is the possibility that fits in with Rav Wolbe, who used to tell us that a person has to always have a hidden life. There's the real you. When you deal with the outside world, you have to look totally normal. But your high madrigas you keep hidden. So a person that constantly teaches that, we can assume he practiced what he preached. That's the way of Gedolim. That's the way of Gedolim. Gedolim, their hidden lives. You go look behind the scenes, what goes on. So that's it. We don't know what Gedolim really are. Late at night, no one has access to them. Late at night, that's it. It's when they do the tefillas and they're learning, and all the kedusha is balayla, is something that is the real moments when we find out what Gedolim are really all about. But that's what they are. They have no need for the physical world. They sleep the minimum, they eat the minimum, they enjoy leisure the minimum. Everyone likes to quote me the story, Rav Shamshon for a Hirsch. Before he died, he asked to see the Alps. He says he doesn't want Hashem to have tainas against him. Shamshon, verwut hat ich nicht gesehen, mein schönen Alpen. Yeah? Why didn't you see my Alps? But everyone forgets that the story, if the story happened at the end of his life. After a life of 24/7, 365, 120 of service to Kodesh Baruch Hu, he realized that he has to be mizbainim b'neflos habayra. It's not a stira. Everything's done with a cheshbon. But the real Yisachos, they take from the physical world the minimum of the minimum of the minimum. Okay, summarize. The 2 plus of Yisachar, he does what he enjoys, and the physical world is taken care of him by his partner, Zvulun. The minus, or the perceived minus from our viewpoint, is that they're not living in a fancy schmancy apartment in Arzi Habira, Mal Dafna, wherever you guys are from. They're not doing that. They're never living, well, you wouldn't even look, you know what I'm saying, in darkest Mea Sha'arim, where there is the places that they would live in, and they're happy. They don't need anything. They can live with the minimum, and they're fine. What about Zvulun? So Zvulun is very much misunderstood. We'll start off with the minus of Zvulun. The minus of Zvulun is very, very obvious. Zvulun lives an incredibly difficult life because he has to make a double parnasa. Now, working for a living, contrary to the way our society likes to promote it, is not glamorous. Very few people get to be James Bond, and even James Bond is fictitious. But in real life, you don't go out and have glamorous careers. I know many people have the schus to enjoy what they do. I happen to be one of them. I'm very, very fortunate. I love teaching. Hate traveling, but I love teaching. So I'm very lucky. I have friends that really enjoy. They're involved in the medical careers, and they feel that what they're doing is chesed, and they enjoy it. And I have friends who are into business, and they love the thrill of the hunt. It's like, it's the hunting instinct. They enjoy, they enjoy the crazy world of business. But by and large, if you do the same thing day in, day out, year in, year out, you go crazy. And you ask a doctor after many years, what do you do for a living? I don't know, I prescribe laxative to old people. It's what they do. They feel like, after a while, it doesn't make any difference. It doesn't matter. I don't know, statistically, some of you are probably trained therapists. But that's just the way it is. There's so much you can do, speech therapy, and get old people to work on hand movements. It's like a thing, you get to after a while, what can you do? So Zvulun has it much worse, because the classic Zvulun was a businessman. In those days, Zvulun worked the seas. In other words, they got on a boat, they said goodbye to their wife and children. I'm not going to see you for 4 months. And I don't even know if I'm going to come back alive, because it's dangerous out there. And they would go around the Mediterranean. They'd go to Carthage and buy spices, and they'd go to Rome and sell them at a profit, and then they'd take the money and they'd buy stuff in Rome and sell it in Constantinople and so on. That's what they used to do. That was Zvulun. He would come back, and this is what the Rambam says, for 3 days after you arrive home, you're potter from tefillah, because your body is still shaking from the travel. So Zvulun does not have it easy. It's a very, very hard, it's a punishing life. Now, what does Zvulun have going for him? Is that we know that La'asid Lavoi, and Zvulun gets the same schar as Yisachar. It's a foundation block of our Judaism, is that Yisachar Zvulun partnerships, La'asid Lavoi, it's the same. In the language of the Gra, based on the Medrash, La'asid Lavoi, Tam, Ha'etz, Ketam, Ha'pri. The eitz, which is the feeder, has the same taste as the pri. So you have, whatever it is, the peach bark will taste like peach. It'll have the same sweetness. It's a crazy thing. The relationship between a bark and the fruit is called also in the Zohar, Emunah and Emes. In other words, Emunah is the journey, and Emes is the destination. So the man studies Talmud, he's associated with the pri, a lucky fellow. And the woman and Zvulun have the faith that La'asid Lavoi, they will taste it as well. So, even though it's a sacrifice, but nevertheless, it is something that you can look forward to. Whatever geschmack he's having, La'asid Lavoi, which is forever and forever and forever and forever, not just 70 years in this world or 120 years in this world, for infinity, so we're together, we're on the same team. It's incredible. The Zohar says about male and female, Ihi Emunah, she is Emunah, and he's Emes. And Zvulun also is Gematria Emunah. So Zvulun and Emunah, and women and Emunah are basically the same idea. They provide the physical possibility for Yisachar, the Ben Terah, who's Kulei Shakua and Terah day and night, to be able to thrive. I just want to make a very, very important point over here. People think that Zvulun doesn't have to learn. Zvulun does not have to be a ben Torah. It's a big sheker. Zvulun, when he gets back home, he's exhausted, but he has to learn, obviously not the same way as Yisachar. He still has to have a chavrusa at night. He still has to learn for 2-3 hours. Or 1 hour daf yomi, each one according to what he's capable of doing. There's no such thing as a Zvulun that doesn't learn. My Rabbi, Rabbi Shapiro, once said that he finds it distressing that they say a story over by Rav Aaron Kotler. I heard the story by Rav Aaron Kotler from an Adam Gadol many, many years ago. I heard an Adam Gadol, and Moshe said the way he says over has to be wrong. What's the story? Rav Aaron Kotler is in, I don't know, some fancy house in Borough Park, one of the big donors to Lakewood. He comes in, he sees the Balabas reading the New York Times. He says, what are you reading the New York Times for? You should be learning Gemara. He says, Rabbi, you know as well as I do that la'asid lavai, in the future I'm going to get your schar. So the classic answer is, of course you're going to get my schar. I'm talking about olam hazeh. Gemara is so much more geschmack than reading a newspaper. That's the story that they tell. And my Rabbi said, chas v'shalom, to say it that way, because there's no way that someone who reads the New York Times gets the same schar of Aaron Kotler. The supporters of Lakewood get the same schar of Aaron Kotler. When they're not working, they have to be learning. Doesn't mean that they can put their feet up and relax. Zvulun has it tough. It's not this whole vision that Zvulun, Zvulun's think, you know what? They leave people leave yeshiva. I'm going to go make money and support yeshivas, and then they feel on the back of their mind they're going to have a big house and fancy clothing and go on glamorous vacations. It doesn't work that way. A real Zvulun really has a hard life because he's not working. He also has to learn. Beautiful story. Chaim of Volozhin had a secret gevir. Every Rosh Yeshiva has a fantasy of a secret gevir. The gevir means a wealthy supporter of your yeshiva. A secret one means he doesn't want anyone to know. So this is like a Rosh Yeshiva's fantasy world. Comes to Reb Chaim Volozhin and says, whatever you need, I'm going to cover the yeshiva's expenses. Whatever you need, whatever's left over. Reb Chaim Volozhin says, what can I do for you to thank you? He said, nothing, absolutely nothing, except for 2 things. When I die, I have no sons. I'm asking you to say Kaddish, and I'm asking you to learn Mishnayos in my memory. Mishnah, letters, neshama, the custom to learn Mishnayos after a dead person, that's the custom. The person dies, and Reb Chaim Volozhin sits down with the Mishnayos, and he learns Taharas, the laws of purity, which is the hardest part of Mishnayos, and he finds a difficult Mishnah, and he's going deeper and deeper, and then he gets a question he cannot answer. And he goes deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and he falls asleep over the Mishnah. And as he's sleeping, the Gvir comes to him in a dream. He says, Rabbi, let me show you how to learn the Mishnah. He shows him how to learn the Mishnah. And Chaim Volozhin wakes up with a huge smile on his face. And he says, I always knew this person, this balabas, this rich balabas, would get my learning after he dies. But so quickly, that I never knew. That was a chiddush for me. A couple of days later, he already knows so much to answer the questions that I can't answer. That was a chiddush for me. What's the other big plus about being a Zvulun? And here I want you to hear it because, as I was saying to you, Zvulun and a wife of a Ben Torah has a lot of overlap. And sometimes you wonder, what is your husband doing in yeshiva? Your husband's steiging away. You want to know, so what did you learn today? I know, if an ox goes a cow, and the cow, whatever, this is a classic Gemara that you learn in 7th grade. And the cow aborts their fetus. And the question is, does the owner of the ox have to pay for the cow and the baby or not? Okay, he says, whoa, okay, so for this I'm killing myself. For this I'm being Mosa Nefesh. And those are like the fun cases. Like some of them are like, weird. You throw a baby off a roof, and somebody catches the baby with his spear. Who's the murderer? So at some point, normally when I say this over, there's always that one lady who says, so what's the answer? But don't ask it, because we have no time, and it's just like a thing. But the point is what they do, like crazy stuff. They learn day and night. They're trying to plug into HaKadosh Baruch Hu's mind to the power of Talmud. So what's in it for Zvulun and what's in it for the wives? So how beautiful is this? The only problem is that Western world doesn't talk about this. Society keeps this idea hush-hush. What makes a Kadosh Baruch Hu happy? What gives a Kadosh Baruch Hu simcha? Kadosh Baruch Hu has a very interesting simcha, very interesting that he actually enjoys. What does God enjoy? So this morning I said it in davening. Could be some of you did. Yismach Hashem b'maisav. The special simcha, called HaKadosh Baruch Hu simcha, that you get when you see the success of others. Now we live in a society where we're trained to think it's all about me. What's in it for me? Okay, I'm the one that has to have the joy. I'm the one that has to be happy. And I'm telling you that anyone who's brutally honest knows that it's much, much greater to empower others than to empower yourself. Try this experiment. Go to teenage kids. I work for NCSY. You go to teenage kids and you ask them, what was the greatest, happiest moment of your life? So their instant answers like, oh, when I got a new car. Or, I got front seats to a something concert. Exciting. You got front seats to what's her name's concert. Great. Okay, it's amazing. I said, now I want to ask you, do you ever volunteer or do something good with your life? Yeah, but over the Christmas holidays, I volunteer in an old age home. What was that like? How did you feel like when you helped a little old lady doing something? She couldn't take care of herself and you took care of her. It felt great. Did it feel greater than the front seats or not? And they think about it and it says it was a different type of a great, a much deeper, more profound kind of great. They get it. They get it. The feeling that they've done something of worth for others is the most incredible feeling because it's a ruchnistic feeling and it is something that comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. No one here has married off a child yet. As Hashem at the right time. But I want you all to remember how you felt on your wedding day and hold on to that simcha until you marry off a child. And then come back and say to me what was more pleasurable. Your wedding or the day you married off your first child? Sunrise, sunset. That moment where you were sitting on the chuppah and you're looking a little older than you do now and you're looking at your little daughter, whatever it is, going around that thing, you're crying away. That simcha is completely and totally without measure because that simcha is not about you. It's what you did for someone else. You built her. You watch her going around 7 times and you remember, the tsaras you had at the time when she kept you up at night because she was teething and I don't want to ruin your morning, but all those moments and then later on when she became a teenager and she gave you real tsaras, what was going on with her. Just remember what you did to your moms. And then suddenly, there you are with her and you see everything worked out good and you see the chassan and that feeling is incredible. That is the simcha of Zvulun. Zvulun says, Smach Zvulun b'tzeisecha. Zvulun, why are you happy when you're going on your boat? You're not going to see your family for 4 months. You're going to be amongst the worst places, buying and selling, constantly nervous someone's going to steal your money from you. But Zvulun knows, in the base of Medrash is Yisachar, and everything that's happening in Yisachar is only because of him. Just like as I'm speaking now, somewhere in the Mir, or wherever it may be, in Brisk, wherever it may be, that your husbands are there, steiging away, and it's all because of you. And trust me, it's all because of you. We don't last a second without our wives. This is a real simcha. In Mitz Hashem, when I get back to Shani Kirtzainai, that's the Oimek. Shosani, you made me Kirtzainai, like your will. Your will, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, is to empower others. My will is to empower others. Your simcha is to empower others. My simcha is to empower others. That's Shosani Kirtzainai, the Ratzon of the Eibishter. That's Zvulun. Zvulun's simcha is that he empowers the Torah of Yisachar. It's a very, very powerful simcha. It's the simcha of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What an incredible triangle. Zvulun, women, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself. So let me summarize. Yisachar and Zvulun in a nutshell. Each one has 2 pluses and a minus. The minus of Yisachar, if you call it a minus, he doesn't see it as a minus. He's got to live a life of a real Ben Torah, and this he has to constantly submerge his physicality to the lowest common denominator, the least that he needs. And as I said beforehand, he can't do it if his wife is not on board. It's a team. I said this week to the seminary I teach. I think it's a shame they call it the 36 hidden tzaddikim. There's not 36 hidden tzaddikim, there's 72 hidden tzaddikim. And it's not a joke. Every single one of the hidden tzaddikim is married. It's like, unless it's a Ben Azai, which is a freak story in the Talmud, they're all married. And the husbands can only do it because they have a wife, and the wife has to be 100% on board. All these hidden stories. We could bring back Rosh Shlomo Carlebach back and ask him to retell his stories. I would tell him to add this in. Who's that? The holy, holy tzaddik. The holy, holy tzaddik. And his Rebbetzin. Okay, you got to throw that in. There's always that. Could be the kids don't know. It could be they hide it from their children. The children may think, my father is an ignoramus, and my mother's just a little on the strange side, and whatever. It could be they never figure out who their parents are. But that's it. That's the Lama Vav Tzaddikim, and it's the same thing. Yisachar has to live this lifestyle. On the other hand, from the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to sleep, he is on the high of a teenage female reading book 7 of Harry Potter, Lahavdil. He's constantly enjoying every moment. And the physical world and the pressures of old Malchus is taken away. He doesn't have to wait in line in banks. He doesn't have to deal with the electric company. He doesn't have anything. Zvulun takes care of 1-800 Zvulun, and he takes care of everything. Zvulun has got one big minus. He works, excuse the expression, like a third. You ever heard your grandfather say that? Like a donkey. He's working so hard. He has to pay for his bills. He has to pay for Zvulun's, for Yisachar's bills as well. He's making a double salary. At the same time, there's 2 pluses. And one is that he knows that in Olam Haba, there's no difference between the two. Maybe even he's better than Yisachar, because if Yisachar is a faker, Zvulun is not going to lose out. How do I know this? Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld said, I'm going to Olam Haba because of my wife. My wife went up to Shemaim, and she's going to go up to Shemaim, and they're going to say, oh, you married a faker, so you're not going to get that huge Olam Haba. And she's going to say, I don't know, everyone told me it was the Gadol Adar. They say, you know what, you're right. They put it right up there. Then I go up, and they say, here comes the faker, let's give him his mediocre Olam Haba. And I'm going to say, but my wife wants me to be with her. Right, she doesn't want to be on her own. Says, you're right, and I get up to be with my wife together. That's the story of Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld used to say. By the way, don't worry about him. He was ganz fine as a Gadol Adar, and so was his Rebbetzin. They were both a famous couple. And now I have exactly 8 minutes to give over what, in some of the places I teach, I do this over several classes. I just feel the need to talk this out. I'm going to do it in 7 minutes. You're all married, and your husbands are all learning. So what I'm saying to you now is just a deeper understanding of what's happening over here. Yisachar Zvulun today is a completely different story. Halavai, we could have real Yisachars and real Zvuluns. As my Rabbi said, Rabbi Shapiro, tomorrow you should daven for him. Moshe ben Rachel is having a very big brain operation tomorrow. Moshe ben Rachel. But he said that we don't have Zvuluns. People are complaining we don't have money. The money's there. There are rich Jews. It's just because we don't have real Yisachars. It's very hard to be the real thing. It's very, very hard to be the real thing. But we have Yisachar light, L-I-T-E, and we have Zvulun light. And that's the community that you and I live in. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. We're trying our best, but that's the reality of what it is. Once upon a time, everyone worked, except for a few individuals who were supported by their shver, or whatever it is, or people who were clearly going to become the next Gedolim when they were supported by the community. But the Koil system, as a system, was started really in the 50s by the Gedolim who saw that after the Holocaust, Klal Yisrael had reached such a low and intermarriage was so high, they needed to readdress the balance. So the Koil system basically meant that if you want your husband to learn over the age of 30 and be a Ben Torah based on our definition, we're going to have to do something different over here. So I'm going to say something, and this is the provocative part of my class, but I want to say it, and I want to say that I believe in this. The Kolim system is really, 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 really a finishing school for Zvuluns. Meaning today, if you want your husband to learn over the age of 30, so he has to be in Kollel in his 20s. For how long? Whatever much it takes, 1 or 2 years could well be enough to put him on the road. To put him on the road, when can you leave Kollel? When it is in your blood to be a Ben Torah, when that 1 hour, 2 hours, or 3 hours a day is be'emes, the centerpiece of your day, then you can go out and you can join the workforce. But it has to be that they enjoy learning, it has to be that there's something that they, just like they won't go a day without eating or brushing their teeth, for them a day without opening Gemara just cannot be. Go and have a look today in your communities back home, in Schmutzlaritz, wherever you come from. You go back home, who's learning over the age of 30? It's basically one of three categories. One category, for me, the most annoying one, are the highly disciplined types. It could be you're married to a husband's from, I don't know, German origin, he works as an accountant, and he will not miss his kavusa for anything, okay? These people are awesome. I don't know how they do it. There are people like that. It's a small part of the population. There's another kind of person called the flaming Baal Tshuva. Some of your dads are like that. The flaming Baal Tshuva, they discovered Judaism late, and they're on fire. But for the remaining 80% of people who are learning over the age of 30, it's because they did time in their 20s. They put in a bunch of years in their 20s of real solid steiging, and they made it part of their bloodstream, and they turned themselves into B'nai Torah. Out of this population, a small part will become Yisachas. Now, the classic Yisachar that I just mentioned is 0 point something percent of the population. They're basically hidden. We have Yisachars. We know that they exist. Chaim Kanievsky, you can see one. But those are the real ones. A lot of them live in this city. A lot of them live in this city. They're all there. The real ones, people know about them. They don't talk about them, but they know about them. Kvod Hashem Hastidam. They're hidden. But we have real Yisachars. But for people like us, Yisachar is basically one of three things. A person in Kiruv, a person in Chinuch, or a person in Rabbanus. It's the way it is. Now, if they're lucky, they can learn till the age of 30. Over the age of 30, it came out nothing. You don't see it. In Lakewood you see, here in Yerushalayim you see, in Bnei Brak you see. But it's a few hundred families. People think, people sit in Koil, they sit forever. It doesn't exist. Rav Wolbe himself couldn't understand how people could learn full-time over 30 when the world is drowning. He felt that they should go out and do kiruv, and do chinuch, and put out the spiritual fires. To be the Abish's fireman is the Hira Shah. But it could be Rav Wolbe, if I could bring it back to life, would agree that certain individuals are different. Rabbi Rosh Shapiro also agrees that people who are cut out to be the old-fashioned Yisachos, they can do it. Then they're the engine of the universe. But by and large, in reality, you have a look at the Yisachos out there. The time at 30, they all go out, and they're doing one of those three, basically. And now comes the big question, and I've got a few minutes left to talk about it, is so which one is for you? Which one is for you? And this is my opinion. My opinion is the answer is for the woman, the one that is for her is the one where she's going to be happiest. And this is something that needs a huge, big din v'cheshbon on behalf of a woman. Because one of my closest friends, when his wife was your age, so he had to leave Kollel because his wife wasn't happy. And actually, she still is a phenomenal woman. She wasn't happy for very good reasons, because her family was in Chutzaretz, her sisters and everything. And it's not like today where you guys do a FaceTime, I don't know, whatever you do. She missed her family and she was miserable. And after they went back to Chutzaretz, and Moshe Shapiro said to my friend, I'm sad for two reasons. I'm sad for you, and I'm also sad for Eretz Yisrael, because Eretz Yisrael needs B'nai Torah like you. Baruch Hashem, he went to Chutzaretz and he did very well for himself in Torah, and so did his wife. But the point is that you have to ask yourself what's realistic. You have to step back and say, you're not saying what people want you to say. You have to say what really makes you happy. You can't fake happiness. And some of you, the stress of money is too much. And unless you have mazel, Yisachas today have to put themselves out a little bit in a limb. Unless you have some kind of a financial way of working it out. From day one, I always worked. I always had to work. I always had to, when I was in Kils, I used to get up early. I know it sounds funny, and I used to drive kids to school and get paid for that. And then later when I couldn't, it was too hard for me, so my wife and I at night, we used to sell artwork. And that's how I ran a thing called the Anvehu. Selling artwork so I could support myself. That's what I did. I was supposed to do it. Later on, I started tutoring. I didn't know I was cut out for chinuch until I was my late 20s. I always thought that chinuch was a bad profession because I made my teachers so miserable. I didn't think it was for me. But it was not easy. My wife, Bianar, was most nefesh, so I could learn, and until eventually I got a job in Machon Shlomo. That's how my career began, before a lot of you were born. Be that as it may, you have to be on fire. If you want your husband to be your sachar, it has to be that the thought of your husband coming home and talking about the accounts that he saw, or the teeth that he drilled into, or whatever it is, you know what I mean, or it's just something that you cannot deal with. You want to have a kiruv house. You want to somehow be makarim, change people's life. That is something you have to feel that way. Others, they have to be honest, brutally honest, and know that they need to know that they have to have the financial stability. It could be your parents are immigrants. Sometimes you grew up in a home where they talk about money incessantly. Do not do that in your own homes. But some of you grew up in the homes, that's an immigrant mentality, or children of Holocaust survivors. Sometimes they talk about, whatever it is. It's like, the first thing you have to do is make sure you don't chas v'shalom have to rely on bitachon. Okay, take care of yourself. Let me summarize. It's 1 o'clock, and the men in the white coats are about to take me away. But I want to come along and say, this is a very, very important thing. Don't just do what you do without understanding there's a bigger picture over here. Klal Yisrael is in a very difficult situation, and we have to choose Yisachar and Zvulun. Neither is B'di'evet. L'asad Lavo, they're exactly the same. Either way, whether you're supporting a Zvulun or supporting Yisachar, they have to be B'nai Torah. Whether they're learning 2 hours a day or they're learning 10 hours a day makes a difference. They can only do that with a supportive wife. But in the end, this is the way that Yitzhak Avinu wanted the world to look like, with these two types of Yidden. And the 21st century version, as we just discussed, is a totally different scenario of the way it could be. But when Mashiach comes, he's going to take it back to the way it's supposed to be. His job is to rediscover the Yisachars and Zvuluns of old, and then the whole world will go and become that Hashem Echad world. They will find their makom of either the Yisachar or the Zvulun, the original Esav or the original Yaakov. And that's the world of Shlemus that we're all waiting for. Thank you for listening.